about our lovely friend Molly. Molly and her father were having supper. This evening, as a special treat, there was a dessert. 1 scoop of vanilla ice cream and 1 scoop of chocolate ice cream. Molly didn't make a sound apart from the scrape of the spoon and a slurp of her ice cream. Delicious, sighed Daddy when he had finished. Then he leaned back in his chair. How was school today? Molly didn't answer straight away. First, she had to eat up the last spoonful, which was half vanilla and half chocolate, half white and half dark. School was half good and half bad, she said, licking her lips and then licking her spoon. Daddy gave her a quizzical look. Maths was boring and general knowledge was fun. The girl on my left was annoying and the girl on my right was nice. The PE teacher was in a bad mood and our class teacher was in a good mood. Daddy pushed his chair back and stood up. Once upon a time, he said, as they made their way to the living room, many things were half and half. Molly took her drawing pad and colouring pencils off the shelf and sat cross-legged on the sofa. I'm going to draw something that's half house, half tree, she announced. Daddy had sat down beside her on the sofa and was flicking through pages of a book. Once upon a time, he said, all animals were half and half. Cows were half horses and horses were half cows. Molly looked up from her drawing pad with her head leant onto one side. What did you say? She said incredulously. In those days, there were cow horses and horse cows, said Daddy cheerfully. Cow horses looked like horses at the front and cows at the back, and horse cows were cows at the front and sporty horsey bottoms at the back. But cows' legs can't run as fast as horse legs, objected Molly. She jumped down from the sofa and scrambled across the floor on all fours past Bertie, who was curled up in the armchair. Look, said Molly, this is what happens when my arms go faster than my legs. She crawled forward and almost immediately fell flat on her face. Bertie sat up and watched with great interest. And when my legs go faster than my arms, this is what happens. Her legs got caught up with her stomach and in no time she was lying on her back. Bertie cocked his head. Tell me some more about mixed animals, she said, returning to the sofa. Daddy shut his book and put his arms behind his head. When I was at school, he sighed, there was a particularly pretty girl in my class. She had the body of a deer. It was lovely to see, but it meant the girl couldn't do her homework on her own. Because you can't write if you've only got hooves. Molly had an idea. If Bertie could write, he could do my homework for me. He's got nothing else to do all day. She crawled across to the cat and examined his paws. No, Bertie would never be able to hold a pen in those, and unfortunately there was no sign that he might one day grow some fingers. Molly tore a page out of her drawing pad and began a new picture. In those days, her father continued, there were also tigers with fish heads. So with their gills, they could breathe underwater, but with their legs, they could race across the land. They had powerful paws with sharp claws, but they were nowhere near as dangerous as real tigers because they didn't have any teeth. Fish tigers were actually extremely friendly animals, and if you weren't careful, they'd give you a sloppy, slimy, slithery, fishy kiss. With their fishy mouths. Daddy puckered up his lips to make a fishy mouth. Yuck, cried Molly, pulling a disgusting face. And then there was a rhino that had long rabbit ears. The rabbit-eared rhino had excellent hearing, but he was very sad most of the time because nobody would take him seriously. He'd go rampaging through the countryside, snorting with rage, but people just couldn't stop laughing because his long rabbity ears waggled up and down and he just looked so ridiculous. Molly waggled her ears, which she could do extremely well, and tried to imagine what it might be like to have really long rabbit ears. Then she showed her father her new picture. She had drawn a very special sheep. Like normal sheep, it stood on 4 thin legs, but it had a human head. A mixture of man and animal. Amazing, said Molly's father. But look at this. Once upon a time, there really were such creatures. Molly looked at the illustration in the book. It was a stone lion lying in front of a pyramid. It actually was a lion with a human head. Many thousands of years ago, said Daddy, flicking through the book, there were animals like this in Egypt, and in ancient Greece they had the Minotaur, a man with a head of a bull. If you ever meet one, make sure you cross over to the other side of the street. Molly was not sure about this. Normally our father made up his stories, but in this book they were actually real illustrations of such animal people. So they actually existed. It could be that they were still around today. Molly felt a little bit uncomfortable. If she did meet a wild man with a bull's head, she certainly would run away as fast as her legs could carry her. Fortunately, said her father, there is no need to be afraid of those creatures anymore. Molly was relieved. Then she thought of another sort of creature. Mermaids, she cried. They're girls with fishes' tails. She bent over her drawing pad. First she drew a girl with long hair and a fish tail instead of legs, and then she drew some blue lines, which were the waves. She put 4 little scales on the fish tail. They looked like squiggles, but they were scales if you said they were scales.